Let's talk about disappointing others because it might just be the most powerful thing you do as a parent. Hey there, I'm Julie Cornish, and this is the Rewired Parent. If you are an overwhelmed, overworked, or overstimulated parent, you're in the right place and you're in good company. Here at the Rewired Parent, we talk about healing, connection, and growth. My goal is to support you on your path to healing, connecting more deeply with yourself and your family, and growing in ways that you never thought possible. So stick with me because today we're going to talk about disappointing others as your new life goal. I know it sounds scary and even counterintuitive, but disappointing others is not failure. I know we have been taught otherwise, but disappointing others is truly freedom. It's freedom to be yourself, and it's freedom to show your children that they can do the same. Stepping into your authenticity and letting go of the worries and fears of judgment and expectation is complete freedom and will help you to live a happier, more satisfied life. Towards the end of the video, I'll give you a few tools and tricks on how you can align more with disappointing other people as a goal, and not as a goal out of spite, but a goal out of alignment with your best and highest intentions, a goal to heal your nervous system and to connect more deeply with yourself, your family, and allow your children to do the same through your example, through you becoming a more authentic, aligned individual and allowing your child to see that and to grow in the same way. Disappointment literally means to disappoint someone else's expectation of you. So, why have we allowed so many people to put their appointment and their judgment on us? Well, it's society. It's something that we have grown up with, so much so that we aren't even really aware of it anymore. If you just take a moment to think about that, how many expectations that we have inherited from our family, from our society, from our community, from our culture, so much that it's just in our subconscious training. We're no longer aware of it, but it has this underlying effect of anxiety, depression, sadness, anger, frustration, however it shows up when you're not meeting those expectations and you're feeling the judgments and the burden. So, how do we free ourselves from other people's appointments? Let's get into that a little bit. First step in any healing and any personal growth is just the awareness that growth is needed. So, some signs that you might be living an appointed life would be that you feel guilty saying no to other people's expectations, that you find yourself parenting from a place of guilt or fear, that you feel exhausted after doing it all, after you're running around and meeting everybody else's expectations. You're feeling burnt out, you're feeling depleted, and you're feeling exhausted. Quite honestly, I have met very few people that are not living in that cycle of expectation and fear and judgment. And this isn't about breaking that cycle in one foul swoop. This is a process. This is a one step at a time. This is awareness. This is taking a look at your life and seeing where the biggest impact is. And maybe you're starting there, or maybe you're starting small and you're working your way up to that. It's bringing in one step at a time to your healing and to your alignment with your authentic self. So don't get overwhelmed. Don't feel like you have to do it all at once because that's not realistic and that's not what this is about. Let's talk about the impact that living an appointed life has on our mental health. Chronic people pleasing, which I feel is something that a lot of us come up against, especially women. We are really taught to be quiet, to kind of play our role. And chronic people pleasing has a huge effect on emotional exhaustion. It is low grade depression, it is anxiety, it is chronic stress. It's our body and our heart will bring up these feelings to let us know that we're not in alignment. So many of us will feel disconnected from our identity. And then we have these symptoms, those suppressions of your desires, and that ignoring of your boundaries and your value has a negative impact. And not only does it have a negative impact, it's going to be an example for our children that being yourself is not okay, or being yourself is not enough, or when you're yourself, you aren't worthy of being loved. And I know that sounds extreme, but that's the reality of it. When we are constantly striving to live for someone else's expectation of us, be it your parent, your church, whatever community you're in, your school, the other parents around you, even your spouse. And that just leads to burnout. It leads to a feeling of not enoughness. And so when we're chronically living in this way, it's easy to forget. I mean, especially since we've likely been doing it since we're children. We have been trained to not be ourselves and to meet other expectations that we were very small children, really from the beginning. It would be easy to forget who we actually are, or do we even get to know who we actually are? Personally, I grew up in a family with a single mom with 4 kids. My mom was gone at work all the time. So she didn't have time to put a lot of expectations on me. I didn't have a lot of rules growing up. I kind of did whatever I wanted. So I didn't have as many of those expectations. My mom had moved far away from her family. We didn't have any family around. So, in honesty, I have been disappointing people my entire life. I'm kidding. I didn't disappoint my mom because she didn't really put a lot of appointments on me, but I did disappoint people within school and after school when I graduated and things like that. And I learned early on that when I followed someone else's expectations, it did not work for me. It ended up where I was very unhappy, or I ended up in situations that weren't right for me. So I am grateful for my childhood and that I learned early on that I can't live for someone else. I have to do what's right for me. A few examples of ways that I've disappointed other people and it really worked out well for me is one, the tiny house. When I told people that I was going to be getting a tiny house through the separation and that I was going to be moving into a tiny house with 2 children, many people said to me, "You can't live in a tiny house with 2 people or with 2 kids. What are you thinking? You can't live in that." Whenever someone tells me that I can't do something and you can't live in a tiny house or you can't anything, the first thing in my mind is, you can't tell me what to do. I can do whatever I want. But even my mom, she was just thought it was a ridiculous idea to move into a tiny house with kids. And she was one of many. But honestly, I knew for me that moving into this house and not moving in, because the other option was going to be a crappy little apartment in a crappy neighborhood, because that's what I would have been able to afford. And in doing that and getting child support, their father would have been depleted and overworked and possibly not been able to afford his home. It wouldn't have worked out well for anybody. And so I went with what I knew was going to be right for the family. And now I have a payment on my house, but my payment is $1,000 or more less than what it would be if I lived in a shitty apartment. And I have a home, I have it on the same property as their dad. So they get to have access to him when they want. We have a joint backyard. We can still go to each other's houses for dinner. And yes, this would not work for everybody. I totally get that. I'm just giving you an example of a time where I have come up against a lot of doubt in the choice that I was making. But I knew that it was right for me and I trusted that and I went forward. And every day I look at the house and our situation and I am super grateful. It's not always perfect, but nothing is always perfect. And that's the point. You're going to make decisions and you need to check in with your heart that they're really the right decision for you. And I teach this a lot to my kids. Your head's going to get you in trouble. Your head will tell you the stories, it'll tell you the doubt, it'll tell you the fear, it'll tell you why you can't do it. It will show you other people's judgments. But if you quiet and you check in with your heart, you can find out the truth. You get connected more with your intuition, however it shows up in your belief system. I call it my highest self. I tell the kids it's their heart magic. You can call it God, you can call it your soul. It doesn't matter what you call it, but it's all about checking in with the part of you that is the authentic you. So, how can we reframe disappointment? You're not disappointing others, you're essentially unhooking yourself from something that was never yours to carry. You're taking off that outfit that doesn't fit or feel right and putting on something that's perfect for you and represents who you are. It is truly a radical act of love for yourself and for your family. It is going to improve every aspect of your life. And yes, to be honest, you might lose some people in your life But that's just it. If you're yourself, if you show up as you, the people that are for you, that are aligning with who you are going to show up in your life. And your life is going to grow and your light is going to radiate. And your kids are going to see that and they're going to realize that no matter what, that no matter how they show up, that they are loved and that they are cared for, whether or not they're agreeable, whether or not they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, that they're loved and they're enough exactly the way that they are. So when we choose authenticity over approval, we are teaching their kids that they get to make their own choices, regardless of if that's disappointing somebody else. And that is something that is going to challenge us. But that's what our children are here for. There are mirrors, there are reflections on where we need to grow and improve, what we need to heal, what parts of ourselves that we need to change. And so allowing them to step into their authenticity because we have allowed ourselves to do the same is going to be a massive shift in your parenting. And with that, that brings me to an important note. I am not saying that we should allow our children to be doing whatever the hell that they want. That's not what I'm saying. It's not about letting them opt out of whatever they want to opt out of. It's not about, oh, they're being their authentic selves. They're not going to help with chores. It's about allowing them to establish their values with your help. And I don't mean putting your values on them. I mean supporting them and understanding one, what are values? Understanding how they can see what their values are and what's important to them age appropriately, and allowing them to create their own internal compass. It's so important for mental health and happiness, especially for individuals with daughters, because if you can develop this when they're young, if you can help them to develop their values and boundaries and be their authentic selves, they're going to be much more secure, especially when they start having those first relationships. Because so often our society dictates that these girls, they'll have their boyfriends, and then however that plays out, and they end up being a little bit more passive or submissive. And no, this isn't all individuals. Obviously, nothing holds true for everybody, but it is a problem that occurs a lot. So if we can help our children and young girls to establish their values and their boundaries from a young age and live from an authentic place, they're going to stand up for themselves. They're going to say what they do and what they don't want and what is and is not okay with them. And that is super important. And on a side note for boys, I have two boys, an uncomfortable thing to talk about, but suicide rate for teen boys is crushingly sad. I don't know if it's a epidemic, but it's freaking terrible. It is, especially in United States where I live, the number of teen boys that commit suicide is staggering. And if we are teaching these boys from a young age what their values are, what their boundaries are, if they feel like they are enough, if they feel like it's okay to come to us because we have allowed them to live from a place of authenticity because we're doing the same thing, they're going to feel seen, they're going to feel heard, and they're going to feel like they can come and talk to us. They're going to feel resilient. They're going to feel like they're enough, and that's going to carry them through those really hard teen years because the teen years, their brains are essentially resetting. Everything seems very huge and dramatic and way, way, way more emotional than an adult or than a younger child. And if you're raising a teen, then I highly recommend the book Brainstorm by Daniel Siegel. Side note, anything by Daniel Siegel is amazing, but the book Brainstorm, if you're raising a teen and need a little insight to what's happening in their brains, I highly recommend that book. And so just a real quick example as it relates back to that, we're not teaching our kids just to be opting out of everything. So a good example would be if you have your child in a lot of commitments and they've decided that maybe they no longer want to do the dance class. And I'm sure as a parent, you probably spent however much money on it. And I'm just asking that we bring a little bit more curiosity into those moments. Why is your child wanting to quit dance class? For me, a lot of the times I have an old belief that they just don't want to work hard. That kids these days, that they don't want to work hard. They don't want to do things that are uncomfortable. And part of that is a little bit true, but it has a root. it's not just that kids are getting more lazy, it's that there's a mental health issue happening, that there is all of these distractions happening. And so getting curious about why your kid really doesn't want to do that dance class, talking, having that conversation about values. And I will do a video specifically on how you and your family can together create a list of values. And you can do that and for yourself individually, for your family, and then help your kids to do that for them. And then you're able to establish boundaries around that, which really, especially as the kids get older, helps to establish and make setting those boundaries and enforcing them easier when they're understanding why they're in place. And back to the thing. So just getting to the root of why your kid is wanting to quit something or shift. If they're no longer in alignment with it, if there's something that happened in class that you need to talk about, if they're struggling in other ways, if they're getting older and their body is changing, they're becoming uncomfortable with it. So just understanding that there's always something deeper. Every behavior has a root cause. You could think about it like a flower, or the flowering part is the behavior. And so then you're going to go up what is the roots of that behavior, because there's always more. It's not just the flower, right? In teaching your children to align more with their own authenticity, with their own values, it helps them to reflect more on their own needs and their limits. It helps them to take ownership of their choices, and it helps them to establish and honor their own boundaries. And this is going to be hugely important as they start becoming more independent and they become teenagers and into young adulthood, because the brain isn't completely developed. I think now they're saying until they're 28. So our role as parents really carries on into their 20s. And at that point, we're more of a support mentor for them. But if we can establish them honoring boundaries, taking ownership of their choices, and knowing their limits when they're young, that is going to carry them through and make our job much easier. Isn't it the goal for our children to leave home mentally healthy, be adults that feel like they're enough? At least that is my goal for my children. And whatever they do, whether they're wealthy or successful, I don't really give a shit. As long as they're happy, that's what I want for my children. So just remember, in doing this, you're helping your child to grow into an adult who knows how to navigate commitment with discernment, not just blind obligation. It's not a lack of discipline, it's the foundation for emotional freedom and personal accountability. So, no, you're not failing because you're disappointing others. You are unlocking your authenticity. You are unhooking from other people's appointments and expectations that were never yours to carry. You're falling into alignment. You are stepping into the truth of who you are, and you're showing your kids that it is safe to do the same. And just a quick question for all of you. I would love to know if there are any expectations or any disappointments that you have made lately, any times in your life that you have disappointed someone and it has really set you free or set you on a beautiful journey. So please, if that is something that is come for you in your life recently or in the past, I would love if you shared that in the comments. It could be an inspiration for somebody else, and it's just always fun to hear your stories. So let's quickly talk about a couple ways that you can begin that journey of disappointment. Number one is alignment over approval check-in. Before making a parenting choice, maybe a bigger parenting choice, just take a moment to pause and check in with yourself. Asking yourself, am I doing this for approval? Am I doing this from fear of judgment? Am I doing this because my parents did it and I think that's what we're supposed to do? And just taking a moment and asking, does it align with my values and boundaries? And maybe you write it down, maybe you stick it in a journal, maybe it's just a small choice and you can kind of just check in. But I encourage you, again, you're checking. I like to put my hand on my heart when I do that to remind me that I'm wanting the answer to come from my heart, not from my head. The second would be practicing nervous system safety after you've disappointed someone or after you've said no. Like for myself, there are a few holidays that we no longer celebrate because they're not in alignment with our values. When we first started doing that, we got a little pushback and judgment. It was harder for me because while the tradition wasn't in alignment with my values at the core of what the tradition is about, I just enjoyed the getting together and the family time. And so kind of coming into that balance. So we have kind of changed around some holidays that we celebrate so that they're more in alignment with our values. and had those discussion with our kids and how they kind of can fit into our life in a different way. So back to the point. So practicing nervous system safety after you say no, after you decline an obligation or decline some event or whatever it is, placing your hand on your heart, breathing, and reminding your body that it's safe to disappoint. It's safe in your authenticity. It's not going to all fall apart. It's okay to say no. Another grounding exercise that I really love, if the hand on the heart doesn't resonate with you, is having both of your feet flat on the ground and the palms of your hand flat on a countertop and breathing into your heart. That helps your nervous system to calm and it draws some quiet from your mind. And then you can say, it's safe to disappoint or whatever resonates with you in that nervous system regulation. You can also massage here on your neck or taking a cold shower. Those are all ways to help regulate the nervous system if you're having a response around disappointing somebody, because it will sometimes create that visceral response because we have been trained to not disappoint people. So once we start doing that, it can have a little bit of reaction. So it's okay to have that reaction. It doesn't mean that you've made a bad choice. It just means that your subconscious programming is stepping in. And you can even say that your body is very receptive. I tell my kids that often, that your body is really suggestible. So just telling your body, it's okay to disappoint. Oh, I see that my subconscious programming, is making me feel guilty about this, and just acknowledging it, naming it to tame it is a saying that we had in parenting certification. So name it to tame it. So just simply saying it out loud helps to take away the charge. And the third thing is tracking small victories, small disappointments or large disappointments, but celebrating those moments when you honor yourself and your authenticity, because it's supporting your family and it's supporting yourself. So when you skip a tradition, when you say no to some activity that you didn't really want to do, but you normally would do because you felt obligated to do it, when you took a nap instead of over functioning and doing something that just wasn't in alignment, when you took care of yourself over somebody's expectation or judgment of you and you let that go and you took care of yourself, please celebrate that. You deserve that celebration. And in celebrating that, that's going to reinforce that that is a safe thing for you to be doing. And so you can say something like, yes, I disappointed someone and I protected my peace. Give yourself a little high five or a pat on the back, and your kids are going to be watching. They're going to be learning that it's okay to be themselves. It's okay to say no, and it's okay to let their light shine through, and all because you're doing that yourself. And you don't even have to train your kids to do anything. You just have to do it, and they're going to see it, and they're going to grow, and they're going to change because of that. And you're going to grow and you're going to change, and it's going to be a beautiful, lovely thing. So please just remember that you're not here to live a role. You're here to live a life. You're here to live a life that you create, a life that you want to live, your authentic light. And that all starts when you stop performing and you start aligning with that authenticity and that light of who you are. Thank you so much for being here today. Let this be your reminder that your healing matters, that your growth matters, and that you matter deeply. The work that you do today makes you stronger and more connected with yourself and your family. So please keep showing up, even when it feels like you're not getting it right, even when it feels like you're not making progress. You and your children both deserve it. If this spoke to you, please like, subscribe, and share it with another parent who needs to hear it, because I think there is a lot of us out there that are feeling overwhelmed, overworked, and overstimulated. The more you comment and share, the more we can spread the word and support families. Sending so much love, so much love to you. And I hope that you have an amazing day, because you truly deserve it. Thank you.